Revealed, my mom's secret surgeon career that transformed a stranger's life, an incredible twist. Jake leaned against the grease-stained wall of Evan's auto repair, the familiar sounds of clanking tools and engines humming comfortingly around him. Yet, a familiar weight settled on his chest, suffocating his resilience, the reminder of his ex-wife's absence, leaving him alone to raise their spirited daughter, Lily. The chaotic blend of nostalgia and despair twisted inside him, as the small-town whispers about his family echoed, leaving him wondering if he had the strength to uphold the legacy of hard work and integrity. In this moment, the shop felt less like a sanctuary and more like a prison. One morning, Mrs. Thompson's old station wagon rolled in, bringing with it the faintest sense of jasmine and home-baked cookies. "Good morning, Jake," she called cheerily, her warm smile lighting the room. As he got to work, their conversation flowed easily, but beneath the surface, her words began to chip away at Jake's steadfast resolve. "Have you heard about the hospital?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. It was then that the full weight of her words hit him. Reports of patients turned away, the struggles that mirrored his own daily battles for survival. He felt the familiar tug of empathy, but uncertainty held him back. What could he do to change anything? Suddenly, Mrs. Thompson leaned closer, eyes shimmering with urgency. "Do you remember your mother, Jake?" The question hung heavy in the air. The pain of abandonment cut deep. He'd spent years trying to come to terms with her disappearance. Yet, her next words unraveled him further. "She was more than you've been told, a doctor helping those in need. Her work transformed lives, Jake." A fire ignited within him, contradicting the crushing dread of his reality. His mother, a figure shadowed in disgrace, had chosen to heal rather than conform. The revelation turned his world upside down, flooding him with confusion and resentment. As he grappled with shifting sentiments, Jake felt the familiar clench of his stomach. Torn between the ingrained values of practicality and the heart-stirring tale of a mother whose passion eclipsed all, he questioned everything. Was it possible to walk a line between the ethical legacy he so desperately wanted to uphold and the intriguing, rebellious path his mother had taken? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Scoffing softly at the irony, Jake paused, his wrench hovered above the engine, weightless against the turmoil brewing inside. How could he reconcile a past that demanded respect for blue-collar toil with the stirring ambition of a healer? Cooking thoughts swirled in his mind, each one clashed against the next: urgency to move forward, fear of letting go. As he recalled Lily's laughter echoing through the house, the thought of becoming something that he hadn't planned for clawed at him. Then, a knock on the shop door jolted him. It was his past standing before him, familiar yet foreign, the faces of the townsfolk who used to look up to his mother, now a distant memory shrouded in shadows, beckoning him to uncover more than he had ever intended. The door was ajar, and with it came the realization that life was leading him into a tangled web, muting the din of his unsatisfactory existence and introducing a new, terrifying path where he could no longer ignore the legacy he had inherited. Would he become the man he never anticipated, follow his mother's lead into the unknown, or would his heart hold firm to the safety of what he had always known? The shadows loomed, and answers didn't seem to be on the horizon. Jake's mind raced as he stood rooted to the spot, the world around him blurring into a cacophony of voices. Over the years, he had constructed a sturdy fortress of self-reliance built on predictable routines, a life as a mechanic where grease-stained hands met stubborn bolts. Yet here he was, on the precarious precipice of an identity crisis, grappling with his mother's shadowed legacy. Uncertainty draped over him like a heavy shroud, stifling every breath. He turned back to the open hood of the station wagon, hoping to find comfort in the mechanical simplicity of his work. But even the rhythmic clinks and thuds of the tools began to sound like whispers of discontent, reminding him of the uncertainty that now simmered under the surface of his life. Each day felt like a flickering light bulb, one moment illuminating his simple existence and the next casting dark shadows where fear lurked. Lily's laughter was a distant echo in his mind, a melody intertwined with his relentless struggles. How could he explain to her the delicate balance between following his mother's once revered path of healing and his ingrained duty to remain steadfast? He thought of Mrs. Thompson's urgent words, "Transform lives." Wasn't that what all parents wish to do? Be the catalyst for change in their children's lives? Maybe, just maybe, he could steer his life toward that very goal. The following day, as dawn broke over the horizon, Jake found himself instinctively avoiding the shop. Instead, he sought refuge in the community library, a place he hadn't set foot in years. The dimly lit aisle of worn books welcomed him like an old friend. Dust motes danced in the beams of sunlight breaking through the window, and he felt the nagging doubt slowly begin to recede. Each title he touched stirred memories of his mother, and curiosity turned to determination. He gravitated toward the medical section, textbooks, autobiographies, stories of nurses and doctors who had made sacrifices to better the lives of others. Flipping through one of the books, he stumbled upon a section detailing the life of a surgeon who began as a mechanic. The path they had traversed mirrored his own, a man whose hands once turned wrenches now served to heal. Could he truly take a leap into this vast, uncharted territory? The fire of intrigue rekindled, igniting an ember of ambition within him. Days turned into weeks as he immersed himself in the books, devouring knowledge like a parched traveler discovering an oasis. He began to map out a plan, not one dictated by fear or regret but one crafted from newfound hope and possibility. He enrolled in night classes at the local community college, studying biology and anatomy with zeal. Each test score drove him closer to that elusive dream, a personal revolution that, although initially daunting, fueled his determination. Every evening, after finishing his classes, he returned to the shop, a quiet satisfaction coursing through his veins. Tools once meant for repairing engines now felt like instruments of a greater purpose. Slowly, even Lily began to notice the change her father, once lost in the shadows, was evolving before her eyes. His patience during homework sessions grew, along with his enthusiasm. On the nights he had no classes, they would build model cars together, Jake resigning to let her creativity flourish while sharing snippets of his own transformative journey. But just as things began to improve, the past crept back with an unexpected visit from a former coworker who knew more about his mother than he expected. "They say she chose a different life," the man said, his voice heavy with disdain and judgment. "But we all know what it costs to walk away from your responsibilities." Jake's heart thundered painfully in his chest. The implications were clear. His mother's choices may have cost her everything, and as he stood at the precipice of a similar decision, he questioned whether he could bear the weight of the legacy she left behind. As he drove home that night, the weight of uncertainty clamped down again. Would pursuing this new path lead to his fulfillment or inevitably unravel the very fabric of his family? Jake couldn't shake the thought that the next steps might lead to an agonizing reckoning, not just with his career aspirations but with the very essence of his own identity. What awaited him beyond the horizon of ambition? The answer seemed tantalizingly close, yet shadowed by the fear of repeating past mistakes, and the following day would bring decisions that would test him like never before. Jake awoke the next day, the weight of the previous night's doubts still pressing on his mind like an anvil. As he readied himself for the day, he couldn't help but replay the words of his former coworker, "We all know what it costs." It echoed in his mind like an ominous drumbeat, turning his stomach with anxiety. What exactly had his mother sacrificed, and what did that mean for him now? Standing in front of the mirror, he caught his own gaze reflecting back with a flicker of resolve. The identity as a mechanic, the grease, the engines, was beginning to feel less like a chain and more like a stepping stone. He realized he wouldn't surrender this piece of himself, but rather evolve it into something greater. Today, he would do more than just go to class, he would confront his fears head-on. In the small community college classroom filled with earnest faces, he felt an unexpected surge of hope. Among his classmates, he spotted an elderly gentleman with kind eyes. Mr. Henderson, a retired physician, had taken the mantle of teacher out of pure joy for sharing knowledge. As he elaborated on the intricacies of the human body, Jake found himself hanging on to every word, captivated by the possibilities that lay ahead. He began speaking up during class, asking questions, his hands raised not just to seek clarification but to engage, to connect. After the lecture, driven by a blend of curiosity and courage, Jake approached Mr. Henderson, intent on learning more about the journey from mechanic to surgeon. "Is it feasible?" Jake queried, the tremor of his uncertainty barely masked by a steeliness he was trying to project. Mr. Henderson smiled, reading the flickering hope in Jake's eyes. "More than you know," he replied. He went on to share tales of medical students from unconventional backgrounds, those who overcame adversity through sheer determination and grit. With a new clarity, Jake left the classroom believing he was capable of transforming his life. That evening, he returned to the shop, gloves on, engine roaring to life. The sounds of metal grinding and engines purring softened his lingering doubts. Yet, there was a flicker of something more, a plan forming beneath the surface. As weeks rolled on, he forged ahead in his studies. Biology became a quest, anatomy a map he eagerly charted. Each exam brought not just knowledge, but a burgeoning confidence that began to drown out his fears. It wasn't merely the grades that fueled him, it was the tangible shift within himself, the realization that he was not shackled by his mother's choices, he was crafting his own narrative. Along with this evolution, however, came the nagging whispers of his mother's past. He began to wonder what had propelled her to abandon her pursuit of medicine. An unanswered yearning brewed inside him, tied tightly to the confrontational history of a legacy not yet fully understood. He hadn't spoken to his mother in years, and initiating that dialogue became increasingly necessary. One late afternoon, sitting on the shop's worn steps, he gathered his resolve. He would reach out. That connection could either illuminate the path forward or deepen the chasms of uncertainty. But as he contemplated, was he ready to confront the specters of his mother's past? Just as he was about to pick up the phone, a message alert blinked on his screen. It was a photograph sent from a number he didn't recognize, showing his mother in a hospital scrubs, smiling next to a patient transformed lives. His heart raced. He didn't even know she had returned to that world. Did this mean there was more to the story? The path before him felt even more tangled, countered with the flicker of revelation that, perhaps, understanding his mother's choices could be key to crafting his own future. The moment had arrived to unearth the truth, and now he stood at the precipice, the abyss of uncertainty beneath him shimmering with intrigue. What secrets lay hidden in the depths of the past? Would this conversation be a lifeline, or would it plunge him deeper into the shadows where fears loomed large? Jake's fingers trembled slightly as he contemplated the photograph on his phone, a window into a life he'd long misunderstood. That image shook something deep inside him, not fear, but a quivering anticipation. For so long, he had viewed his mother's abandonment as a betrayal, a single defining action of her life, but now the contours were shifting. What lay behind her return to medicine? Could it be that she had finally reclaimed a part of herself, leaving behind the shroud of doubt that had clouded their years apart? He stood, the warmth of late afternoon sun bathing the shop in a golden hue. The sounds of tools clattering and engines running felt distant. All he could focus on was the moment, a delicate balance between fear and the urge for resolution. He took a deep breath, letting it fill his lungs before releasing it slowly. It was time to bridge the gulf that had kept him from her for too long. With newfound determination, he dialed the number associated with the unknown sender, each ring stretching his nerves tighter. When she picked up, her voice was a familiar melody yet laced with the nuances of time lost. "Jake?" "Mom," he began, only to lose momentum. The silence on the line elongated, filled with the weight of years and unspoken truths. "I saw your message," she continued, her words cautious, yet tinged with warmth. "I didn't know how to reach you." It was odd hearing this version of her. She sounded both vulnerable and strong, a juxtaposition he never anticipated. "I saw the picture." "You're back in the hospital?" "Yes. I am." She paused, likely gauging his reaction. "I didn't want you to find out this way, but yes, I returned to medicine, and I love it." The pride in her voice cut through the heaviness like a deft scalpel. A river of questions surged within him, yet he found himself fixating on the personal implications of her claim. What happened? Why did you leave before? Another silence hung heavily, and he could hear the faint sounds of a hospital in the background, instantly creating a vivid image of her environment, a place filled with life and healing. That's a long story, she replied finally. But every day I spent away from it felt like a denial of who I am. You just walked away when things got tough, he said, frustration pulsing within him. It was a small accusation yet layered, reflecting his childhood rage and adult confusion. Her voice softened, almost a whisper. I had to, Jake. For reasons I couldn't explain back then, it felt necessary. But I've learned, sometimes running away isn't about weakness. Sometimes it's just about finding the right way to come back. His heart clenched at the vulnerability she revealed. He was beginning to see her not as the mother who had abandoned him, but as a person shaped by her choices and struggles. You're helping people now, right? He said, needing to steer toward the hopeful light. I am, she said, a hint of laughter in her tone. And I never stopped thinking about you. I thought, if I could find my way back, maybe you could too. Her words seemed to resonate, setting off echoes within him. Could their journeys be more intertwined than he had allowed himself to believe? The question flickered on the edge of his thoughts. Was her return a catalyst for his own path toward healing and discovery? I'm trying to make some changes too, he admitted, his voice gaining strength. I want to become a surgeon. Silence enveloped them again, but this time it was charged with potential, a stepping stone into uncharted territory. Then we need to talk, she finally said. There's so much more to share, Jake. I want to help you, if you're willing. His stomach clenched, not with fear this time, but with a burgeoning hope and determination. The tangled web of their histories was slowly beginning to uncoil, revealing fragments he never expected to face. Could she guide him through this transformation? Was he ready to travel alongside her as they uncovered the path ahead together? He knew the journey would demand much from him: vulnerability, forgiveness, tenacity, but it felt less daunting now. His mother could be a compass, guiding him through the maze of doubts that had once entangled his aspirations. I'm ready, he replied, resolve thrumming through him like the engines he worked on daily. As they set a time to meet, Jake realized the conversation heralded the lifting of fog that had often clouded his vision. Now he could finally see the horizon burgeoning with possibilities. Yet as he hung up the phone, a new knot of apprehension tightened in his chest. What revelations awaited them? The shadows of their past churned ahead, daring him to step closer. He was about to delve into the complexities of love, sacrifice, and the intricate ties of family, a journey that could either forge solidarity or fracture once more. Only one thing remained clear: the real work was just beginning, and Jake stood on the verge of confronting the truth that awaited. What hidden depths of resilience lay within his mother, and ultimately, within himself? Jake spent the next few days in a haze, filled with anticipation and dread. Each morning, he awoke with the overwhelming question gnawing at the edges of his thoughts: what if this new connection with his mother unraveled more than it stitched together? The pending lunch conversation loomed over him like dark clouds before a storm. In the garage, he threw himself into work, trying to drown out the conflicting emotions. The rhythm of the tools was a temporary comfort, but with every tightening bolt, a different part of him felt loose, unraveled. He anticipated her explanations about her life decisions, an old script he hoped would cast new light instead of simply dragging him back into shadows. The sun hung low when the day of their meeting finally arrived. Dressed more sharply than usual, Jake felt the weight of his own intentions pressing down on him. The drive to the cafe felt like a trek up a mountain, every bump in the road echoing the tumult of his thoughts. Yet beneath the tension was a thread of excitement, a chance to reconnect, truly this time, and maybe, just maybe, heal old wounds. As he entered, he spotted his mother at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug. Time had altered her. She looked older, yet she also radiated a sense of purpose. Approaching her, he fought an overwhelming urge to retreat, wary of what lay beyond familiarity. Would she still be the same woman in his fragmented childhood memories, or had she transformed into someone else entirely? "Hey, Jake," she greeted, her eyes brightening with relief and warmth. "Thank you for coming. Thanks for meeting me." He slid into the seat across from her, encountering the familiar mix of comfort and the unknown. "I've given a lot of thought to what we discussed," she began, her voice steady. "About my choices and how they affected you." He noticed a slight tremor in her hand as she set her cup down. "I know it's a lot to take in." He nodded, unsure how to articulate the tumult within him. "I guess I always felt abandoned. I still do sometimes." He watched her expression, feeling the weight of his honesty. She leaned in, her gaze unwavering. "I ran away for what felt like 1,000 reasons. Fear was only one of them. I had my dreams and my demons, and I thought abandoning you would free both of us. But it didn't. I need you to understand I didn't stop caring." Her words hung in the air, heavy with clarity. Yet absorbed in her explanation, he wrestled with his own history. "Did you really find yourself in medicine?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Is it worth the sacrifice?" "I didn't find myself fully until I faced what I had run from. Returning to medicine was more than a job, it became a redemption arc for me," she replied, her voice breaking slightly. "But Jake, it was also a way to honor my past. I'm not saying it's easy. There are days I still question whether I'm deserving of this path." "You mentioned wanting to help me," he prompted carefully. "How? What do you want to share?" "I can help you navigate the rigors of becoming a surgeon, yes," she said softly. "But I can offer more than that. I've learned about vulnerability, about confronting the things that scare you. Sometimes they shape who you are more than your credentials ever will." Jake wrestled with the implications of her words. Deep within, a flicker of enlightenment ignited. If vulnerability was indeed a path forward, then perhaps the daunting task ahead to become a surgeon, to build a new relationship, could be approached with courage, not fear. "It's terrifying for me too," he admitted, feeling a slight grin break through the tension. "I've already faced rejection in this journey. What if I fail?" "Failure doesn't define you. It's part of learning. Embrace it," she encouraged, her eyes shining with sincerity. "You're capable of so much more than you think." In that moment, Jake felt a shift, the weight of their past, heavy and tumultuous, felt like it was lifting. Whether it would be easy or difficult remained uncertain, but the idea that pain could lead to growth was a revelation he hadn't fully comprehended until now. As they wrapped up their conversation, the talk ebbed into shared laughter and stories that had once been mere recollections. For the first time, Jake felt a connection stronger than he imagined possible or even dared to hope for. Walking back to his car, he was filled with a determination he hadn't known before. The path ahead was still uncertain, but he sensed a glimmer of hope igniting deep within him. Yet as he sat behind the wheel, a new thought invaded: if he was to take these steps towards becoming a surgeon, he would have to confront faces he wished to avoid: the critics, the judgment, the harsh realities of the medical world. What awaited him on that front? He could feel the dread creeping back, but this time, it clashed with a burgeoning excitement at the edge of every possibility. He sighed, the weight on him shifting, morphing from fear to resolve. The moment of truth was drawing nearer. How could he forge ahead and face those obstacles, while embracing the uncharted path alongside his mother? The following week was a whirlwind of activity for Jake. He felt energized and focused, but beneath that excitement resided a simmering anxiety about what lay ahead. He began to immerse himself in his studies with renewed vigor, poring over surgical textbooks that had once sat untouched on his shelf. Each page turned was a decision made, a commitment to confront not only the academic challenges of becoming a surgeon but also the emotional labyrinth that came with it. During lectures, he found himself noticing the ways his professors engaged with the material. Their passion ignited something deep within him. He yearned for that same enthusiasm, but he also battled against the self-doubt that crept back with every new piece of information. Could he truly remember all this, let alone translate it into something that could save lives? Seated next to him in class was Lola, a fellow student whose own journey into medicine had been marked by loss and determination. They quickly developed a friendship built on shared late-night study sessions and discussions that meandered through hopes and fears. Lola's unwavering support became a lifeline, a reminder that there were others on parallel paths bearing the weight of their own insecurities. One afternoon, after a grueling session on surgical procedures, Lola turned to Jake, her brow furrowed in thought. "You keep waiting for the moment when you think you're ready, but it'll never come until you just take the plunge," she said, her tone challenging yet encouraging. "What are you afraid of?" Her words struck a nerve. He'd been so consumed with avoiding failure that he hadn't realized he'd been hindering his own progress. I guess I'm afraid of the judgment that comes with it," he admitted. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I let everyone down?" "You've already encountered failure," she pointed out. "This isn't about being perfect. This is about learning. Think of it this way, every mistake is a lesson carved into your experience. You can't grow without them." The gravity of her statement resonated with him. Jake's memories of those moments in the garage, trying desperately to fix things, reflected that very lesson. Every rusted bolt he encountered triumphed over only through persistent effort. Maybe approaching medicine could be similar, a series of calculated experiments leading to mastery. Fueled by this new perspective, he approached the following weeks with greater resilience. He sought out opportunities, volunteering on clinical rotations that forced him out of his comfort zone. Each day unfolded as a learning experience, where he faced situations that invoked every insecurity. When confronted by the attending physician's piercing gaze during a procedure, he fought against the instinct to shrink. Instead, he leaned into the moment. He asked questions, advocated for patience, and embraced the uncertainty. Still, shadows of emotional turmoil loomed large whenever he was reminded of his mother's struggles. Their connection was transforming, but it was also unsettling. How could he reconcile her departure or her choices with his newfound strive for healing? It was difficult to shed the instinctive pity he felt for both himself and her. Yet, those feelings ignited a desire to understand how trauma shaped resilience, not only in him but within her. One evening, with his textbook sprawled across his desk, Jake picked up his phone. He knew he needed answers. He wanted to speak to his mother again, not just to reconnect but to navigate the intertwining paths of their journeys. He sent her a message asking if they could talk, his heart racing with anticipation and anxiety. As he awaited her reply, he was gripped by the realization that there was a larger question looming: could he bear the weight of her past while forging his own new identity? Yet perhaps the deeper confrontation lay in what he would discover about himself in the process. His phone buzzed, and he opened her response. "How about dinner on Friday?" The words seemed to dance on the screen, invigorating yet daunting. Jake felt a surge of resolve. The time had come to face not only his fears of becoming a surgeon but also to delve deeper into the complexities of family and legacy. Each step into the unknown felt breathtaking, teetering on the precipice of profound transformation. What revelations awaited him during that dinner? Would the past amplify or diffuse his passion for the present he was desperately crafting? Prepared for whatever lay ahead, Jake took a deep breath and prepared to leap forward into the fresh unraveling of his path, both as a son and an aspiring healer. Friday arrived with a fusion of anticipation and dread. Jake dressed with care, layering the crisp white shirt under a navy blazer, a first step towards not just meeting his mother, but also establishing a professional facade he hoped to embody in the future. The mirror reflected a semblance of confidence, yet within him, doubt flickered like a candle in the wind. As he made his way to the restaurant, Jake's mind raced through possible conversations, probing the contours of their shared history. Would she acknowledge the unspoken distance that lay between them? Would she express regret over years of silence? He felt the weight of unresolved emotions. Each car passing by seemed to echo life's unpredictability, a reminder that moments could change in the blink of an eye. The restaurant was a swell of bustling energy, the aroma of grilled chicken and herbs enveloping him. He spotted his mother seated near the window, her demeanor composed yet fragile. Time had softened her edges, but the familiar melancholy in her expression urged him forward. With a deep breath, Jake approached. "Hi, Mom," he said, as their eyes locked. "Jake," she replied, her voice tinged with affection and apprehension. They shared an embrace, his heart fluttering with a mixture of comfort and uncertainty. When they sat down, they exchanged polite pleasantries, but the conversation quickly pivoted to the weighty subjects that had long gone unsaid. "You know, I've followed your journey into medicine," she began, a tremor in her voice. "It makes me proud." Proud. The word stabbed through layers of resentment he had tried to bury. "Proud of what, Mom? The same way you left when things got tough?" The emotion surged through him, raw and unfiltered. She met his gaze, the burden of years manifesting as vulnerability. "I left because I thought you deserved better than the chaos surrounding my choices. But in doing so, I lost you." The pain in her eyes pushed him back into introspection. Could he comprehend the complexity of her decisions? Recollections of her struggles fed into his own anxieties about medicine. Was it possible their experiences were interwoven, their legacies a tangle of responsibility and survival? The conversation morphed, revealing snippets of her past in medicine, her nurturing spirit transformed into accolades that had faded with the weight of time. "I was once a surgeon, you know," she confessed quietly, "but I didn't have the resilience to navigate that world. I made choices for survival, not understanding they would cost me everything." Jake's heart raced. "You were a surgeon?" The revelation rocked his understanding of her identity. Here he was, grappling with his own uncertainties while she had once embraced the same path, albeit she had turned away. "Yes, and I wish I hadn't let fear dictate my choices," she continued. "Maybe if I had faced my challenges head-on, I could have remained in a field I loved. Whenever I see you studying, I reflect on my mistakes and wonder if you'll find a different outcome." Realization washed over him. Her journey into medicine had mirrored his own internal struggles, and while she had retreated, he was stepping forward. Each question and moment of conflict could be a launching pad he needed to forge his own truth, not just derive strength from her failures. "Mom," he said, heart steeling against the tide of emotions, "your legacy doesn't have to end here. I want to define my path, but I also want to understand the history we share." Their eyes locked for a moment, and the gravity of their intertwined fates settled between them. He felt the tremors of fear but also a burgeoning clarity, a resolve to confront the past without missteps. "Can we help each other heal?" he proposed tentatively. His mother nodded, tears glistening but unfallen. Together, they stood on the precipice of reclamation, both inviting the depth of their shared journey to nourish not only their individual paths but also the bond they had nearly severed. As dinner wound down, an idea crystallized in Jake's mind, one that could integrate his mother's unfulfilled aspirations with his burgeoning passion. Would it be possible for him to honor her spirit through his own pursuit of medicine? He was about to voice it when the waiter interrupted, presenting a trio of dessert options. The momentary distraction was a reminder there lay a vast expanse of unspoken possibilities. What other secrets hovered around them, waiting to be unveiled? Jake could feel the emotional scaffolding shift, shaping his understanding of both who he was and who he was becoming. Now more than ever, he craved to unravel this newfound confluence of paths. As he gazed into his mother's hopeful eyes, he realized that every revelation could be a healing lesson. Together, they could discover whether love, loss, and medicine could intertwine to yield a future neither anticipated. Could one dinner ignite a transformative journey that would alter not only their lives but, perhaps, the lives of those he aspired to help? Jake's mind swirled with possibility as they shared dessert, the muted clatter of dishes serving as a backdrop to his racing thoughts. The ideas he had considered regarding his mother began to take shape, like faint constellations emerging in a brooding desert sky. What if he could merge their experiences in a meaningful way? What if her past in medicine could be a foundation for his future? "Mom," he said after a moment of silence, the sweetness from dessert lingering on his tongue, "I've been thinking about what you said. About facing challenges head-on. What if I used that perspective for my own journey?" He could feel the intensity of her gaze urging him on. "What do you mean?" Her tone was cautious yet intrigued, like a chapter still unread. I want to explore my emotions more deeply in the context of my medical studies. I could write about your experiences. Use the lessons you learned, what went wrong and what I can do differently. It wouldn't just be about protecting the legacy of our family, it would be about shaping my understanding of resilience and healing. Jake watched as his mother processed the idea, layered emotions flickering across her face. Relief, pride, and a twinkling fear mingled. That's a beautiful thought, Jake. The sincerity in her voice wrapped around him like an embrace, bolstering his resolve. But it's a heavy burden to carry. Maybe so, he replied, the weight of her past settling on his shoulders, but I don't believe it has to paralyze me. I want to confront the same fears you faced. I want to approach difficult situations with hope instead of retreating into safety. Her expression softened, the tension easing in her shoulders. Facing fear is part of the journey, isn't it? I sometimes wonder what I could have achieved had I not crumbled under the weight of expectations. The dichotomy of their experiences reverberated through him, but Jake also felt the energy of ambition start to bubble within. He reached for his phone, seeking to jot down this burgeoning idea, this alliance forged in honesty. What I have in mind is more than just a report, he continued, his fingers itching to type. I want to create a real narrative that intertwines our paths. Not only mine as a medical student but yours as a woman who once stood at the pinnacle of a challenging field. It could serve as a powerful testament for those struggling in similar ways, perhaps even a book. Her brow furrowed slightly. A book? Facing the past in written form requires vulnerability. Are you ready for the backlash it could bring? The question snagged at his confidence. Was he prepared to dissect the complexities of their relationship publicly? The thought kindled uncertainty, but exhilaration soon quelled his fear. If it can help others and me understand our choices more clearly, then yes, I'm ready. He met her eyes, the walls of his insecurities cracking. Yet, as soon as they shared that moment of intimacy, something shifted in his mother's expression. Jake, she said slowly, there's something I haven't disclosed. It's about my departure, the real reason things ended up so broken between us. The air felt electric, filled with unuttered truths. Would this be another layer of their complex relationship? He leaned closer, anticipation tightening his breath, wanting to pull out every fragmented piece of their shared story. What do you mean? He urged, as curiosity and tension intertwined within him. If I'm going to share the past, I think it's only fair that you understand the choices I made that day. They go deeper than I let on. Jake felt as though the ground had opened below him, and he braced to leap into the unknown, hungry for the truth yet unsure what it might unveil. He recognized that this turning point could redefine everything he believed about himself and his mother. Could the story they had fractured together become one of strength and healing rather than mere survival? As he caught her eye again, Jake's heart thundered with a potent mix of fear and hope. The journey ahead promised challenges that could stretch their bond beyond all they knew. What would they discover in the depths of her confession? Could their connection survive the reality of hidden decisions? The room felt charged with secrets, the air thick as Jake waited for his mother to continue. He could see the dam of emotions behind her eyes ready to burst. Deep down, he knew that unveiling her past was not just about him or their fractured relationship. It was about the legacy of their shared experience, and possibly his own transformation. Jake, she said, drawing in a determined breath, when I left, it wasn't just because I felt overwhelmed by expectations. It was because I made a choice that fundamentally changed the course of my life. The tremor in her voice seemed to echo the tremors within him, each word palpable with gravity. Curiosity pulled him closer, and he leaned forward, his heart racing. What choice? He pressed, desperate to understand this turning point. Her fingers traced the edge of the table, avoiding his gaze for a moment. I was in a situation that challenged my ethical beliefs, and I failed to respond in a way that I can be proud of. I took a leave of absence to grasp my priorities, but not before a life was irrevocably altered as well as my standing in the medical community. Jake swallowed hard. Her words unfurled a mixture of disbelief and intrigue. What happened? I was involved in a surgical procedure, one that should have gone flawlessly. But the patient, she was someone I knew very well. A friend. The tears glistened in his mother's eyes, a reflection of the buried turmoil surfacing. I froze during a crucial moment. I made the wrong call, and she didn't survive. Defending myself felt like a betrayal to her family. I stepped away because I didn't want to face that failure. I didn't want to face myself. Each word struck Jake like a hammer, chiseling away at the foundations of his understanding of her past. He had lived through the repercussions indirectly but had never known the depth of her struggle. But you weren't the only one involved. You can't carry that forever. You tried to save her. Her gaze finally met his, piercing but vulnerable. I know that rationally, but at that moment, I failed my duty. The pain I felt was overwhelming, and it paralyzed me. I couldn't bear the thought of facing colleagues, facing patients, knowing I'd faltered. I retreated into my own shame, marking that decision as a failure I couldn't shake off. Jake felt a swell of conflicting emotions. Anger. Compassion. Understanding. This was the moment he had sought, but it bore clarity that was both illuminating and unsettling. But you still have so much to offer. How can you not see that? I've spent years running from the shadows of that day, Jake, and I was sure that sharing it would only add to my burden, not lift us. But now, knowing you want to write our story, God, I think it's time to face it. Her resolution sparked a transformation within Jake, kindling a sense of purpose. If you share this with me, I can help you process it. Together, we can turn pain into strength. Maybe we can help others. The hesitance in her eyes softened, and she nodded slowly. Do you really believe that? I want to believe it. It's why I have to write this, he confessed, a fierce urgency bursting within him. I've been so focused on my own fears of inadequacy and failure, that I hadn't realized how much your choices have shaped me. I need this journey, both of us do. A profound silence enveloped them, resonating with the weight of shared burdens and the promise of healing. They were embarking on a voyage that would test their resilience. Jake felt the flicker of hope light up between them, illuminating possibilities he never imagined. Jake resolved not only to carve out their narrative, but also to confront the impact of regret both his and his mother's. As they sat there, a pact formed, not just to recount the past but to forge a path to redemption. Just as Jake opened his mouth to propose starting that very night, a sudden realization hit him with an unsettling chill. But what if there's more you need to tell me? Is there someone else? Is that why you've been so hesitant to share? The question hung between them like an unanswered prayer, anchoring them in a moment pregnant with tension. Could he confront the tangled web of hidden truths without shattering the fragile progress they had made? What else could wedge between them as they ventured deeper into the painful unknown? The silence stretched between them, thick with the weight of unspoken fears, and Jake's heart raced as he held his mother's gaze. He could see the flicker of hesitation in her eyes, but he knew the journey to healing required confronting truths, however uncomfortable. What had he truly known about the choices she had made and the impacts they had on the fabric of their lives? Is there someone else? His voice was steady despite the tumult inside. She blinked slowly, processing the loaded question. Jake, she breathed, her eyes clouding with a mix of emotions that suggested depths beyond either of their understanding. This is exactly what I feared. Feared? Or wanted to hide? He pressed gently, careful to tread the line between curiosity and confrontation. I left not just because of that surgical error, but because I felt unworthy of love and connection, both professionally and personally. I thought leaving was the best way to shield you from a mother who was failing herself. And yes, there was someone else involved, but not in the way you think. The answer sent a ripple of confusion through him. What do you mean? After I left the hospital, I had an estranged relationship with another doctor, a man I turned to in a time of vulnerability. He challenged me, yet I also let him influence my flight from medicine. It momentarily filled the void, but pushed me further from understanding who I truly am. I can see the crumbling path of my choices now, wanting to find solace in distractions rather than confronting realities. She paused, her voice trembling now. But I cannot excuse my actions. It doesn't excuse abandoning me, Jake stated, his voice low yet firm. Her shoulders fell, the weariness of life's choices etched across her face. You are absolutely right. I have spent years running from my past, without acknowledging the repercussions on you. It is a heavy burden for a mother, but my mistakes also do not define you. Jake could feel the tension shift in the air, a fragile understanding blooming within the harsh realities. I realize now that we're both grappling with the past, he admitted. I felt paralyzed by fear, hesitating to embrace opportunities because I was always wary of failure. But knowing you have faced failure yourself, why did you never reach out? She looked down at her hands, fidgeting with the napkin. Because I thought you deserved better than my mistakes. I thought you should only remember me as the mother who sacrificed for your future, not the one who faltered. But I was blind to the reality that my complexities could paint a fuller story, one of resilience despite hardship. Maybe I needed to know that it's okay to be flawed, Jake acknowledged, allowing the weight of their collective truths to settle. I crowned myself with your expectations and fears instead of paving my own way. I thought I had to be perfect at everything I pursued. But realizing we share the same vulnerabilities shows me that healing is possible. A silence stretched between them again, this time rich with understanding. They could redefine their relationship, forming a deeper bond founded on honest dialogue rather than guarded pretenses. I want to share not just my story but ours together, Jake asserted, a resolute glimmer illuminating his eyes. I want to understand both of our journeys, the hurdles we faced, and how they manifested our strengths. Her smile, tentative yet genuine, broke through the depths of her earlier melancholy. You possess the insight I should have harnessed in my own life. I wish we could have navigated this together all those years ago. Jake's heart felt lighter. Well, there's no better time than now. This conversation, filled with vulnerability, became a turning point. Jake realized that behind each failure or each moment of retreat lived the potential for growth. They had a unique opportunity to transform the narrative of regret into one of resilience, taking each step forward to honor the complexity of their shared experiences. I want to start writing tonight, Jake chirped with newfound determination, a spark igniting within him. Let us document how we've struggled, stumbled, and emerged with real emotions, unfiltered. Our journey could serve as guidance for others wandering through similar shadows, don't you think? Yes, she said, a glimmer of admiration etched in her face. We could create a testament to healing and discovering resilience through the years. I'd like to explore what it really means to fail, and how both of us can find redemption. The air shimmered with possibility. They would no longer be weighed down by the burdens of their histories or their perceptions of one another. Instead, they would embrace the complexity of forgiveness and understanding, forging a partnership rich with the potential for transformation. As they left the restaurant together, a wave of excitement surged between them. The journey ahead was still uncertain, filled with undiscovered truths, but they stood shoulder to shoulder, a mother and son hesitant to confront the past yet determined to redefine their future. In that moment, Jake saw the woman who had once been lost to him, now stepping into light alongside him both as a mother and supporter. It was time to write their story, one where they would not only contend with the shadows of the past but also illuminate the fertile ground for love to bloom once again. Jake was ready to take control of his narrative, to create a new legacy of courage, and they would do it together, each leg of the journey strengthening the bond that had been stretched yet cherished through it all. Join them as they embark on a transformative journey into the depths of healing and self-discovery. And on that note, you need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, your input matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Let us spread the message of healing and connection together. Every action counts.